It's awesome. Just got the EVH SDE 3000 in, and it sounds just like it. Here's the I'm playing on the EVH medium setting. And boy, it nails the classic Van Halen tone. If you guys have been following me on Instagram lately, and of course here on YouTube, and then on various social media outlets, you've probably seen me making a ton of videos. I did the quick playthrough with like the Right Now solo, and also which one did I do the other day? Amsterdam, yeah, and it sounded just freaking like the old, you know, that Van Hagar era. And I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about that era. And how much that era like means to me, right? Right. Oh yeah, like the old drop. I like the EVH drop tune thing. Right, it's like that thing. So it's like, I always forget that. That's what they are, right? Great, man. It's so much fun. I feel like a kid again playing on it. Let me just tell. I'm just gonna risk it and talk a little bit, not just sit here and wank and pretend to be my hero. I came into music through my family, and we played a lot of bluegrass, and mandolin's my main instrument. And I do a lot of flat picking and country stuff and Americana stuff, and that's the kind of stuff I grew up playing, right? Like Martins and with big heavy strings. I started playing electric guitar when I was about 17 or 18, some blurred line in there. And my first Van Halen song, my first memory of Van Halen, because I'm a child of the 80s, right? I wasn't born when Van Halen came out. I wasn't born for the first 4 records, but like my first memory of them was the Right Now video. If you guys remember a show on MTV called Road Rules, there was The Real World, and then there was Road Rules. And Road Rules was a show that was the real world in an RV, and they had to do these random tasks throughout the country. And it was on MTV, and I remember one of the things they had to do was they had to be techs on a Van Halen arena show. And the very first memory I have of Van Halen is the Right Now video, where they're standing in the white room and the words are on the ground. And it was a really powerful message. I didn't know that Eddie Van Halen was the greatest guitarist on the planet. I didn't know that. I was young and into bluegrass and into Bela Fleck and Tony Rice and things like that. And when it kicked in that Ed was this guy, I was like, oh, he's the guy that did the Right Now video. That's them, right? The curly-headed singer. That's what I remembered, right? So at that point, I had to go back in time and study and find, my first Van Halen record was the Black Greatest Hits album. And it had, Pound Cake and Dreams and all this stuff, but it also had like Hot for Teacher and Eruption and all that stuff too, right? So the journey for me was all about the Right Now era, the Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, specifically the live Right Here, Right Now video, and the Ernie Ball guitar, the Pound Cake guitar. And he always had this tone. So when I started playing electric guitar, I was like, how do you sound like that? That's the setting I want. And I was too young and ignorant to realize that setting didn't come in a single piece of gear. For those that don't know, the thing that we're hearing right now is the wet, dry, wet sound. So I'm going to mute things out one at a time and give you what the wet, dry, wet setting is. So if I mute out the effects on the side, you'll have my dry right in the middle. Nothing. So that's just the dry sound of the Eddie Van Halen amplifier. Now I'm going to add in the right side. So it's a really long delay. Okay, I'm going to mute that. I'm going to give you the left side. See how that's a really short one. Now let me give you both of them together. I can't do the lick today. It never sounds right when you do it in standard, right? But that's the wet, dry, wet setting. And I really lusted over that sound for years. And to do this traditionally, I have a point here. To do this traditionally, you used to have multiple guitar amplifiers, and you had to have duplicates of pieces of gear, like duplicates of the old Rolands, right? And you had to have a line out of the middle, so your middle amplifier had no signal of effects, and your out two amplifiers had that thing, but your dry signal was in the middle. It's wet, dry, wet. Thanks to the folks, there's several people here that are about to be thanked by me, which is one, the Roland Company for getting involved, one of the original guys involved with the SDE 3000 to come back and do this EVH delay pedal. The next guy, it's really important in this process, is a guy named Matt Brock and Dave Friedman, and then of course Pete Thorne. Pete is very much a curator of all things Van Halen, and Brock, if I'm not mistaken, was Eddie's tech for many, many years. And they got the original rig out of storage. The last rig he used was 2015, if I'm not mistaken. And they got the settings, everything. This is spot on. So these are Ed's settings, and from the rig, from the touring rig. So what I'm demoing today, and just kind of having fun with more than anything. I'm not trying to be the world's best guitar player or anything like that. I'm not. This is definitely just a hang. But I just want you guys to kind of get to experience this wet, dry, wet thing. Here's what's really important is you can do this sound that used to take $30,000 worth of equipment to recreate. I'm doing it with less than $5,000 worth of stuff. I'm talking guitar, amplifier, everything. Like the way I'm running the signal is this guitar into a white EVH 5153 that's sitting behind me. And then out of that into a Sir load box. Okay. What that does is that loads the amp down and provides an IR so I can go into my computer. Okay. So from there, I'm going from the load box into the delay unit. And from the delay unit, I'm sending 3 signals to my Apollo. My Apollo is my interface that gets me to my computer. And I'm sending the dry signal, the left panned to the left and the right panned all the way to the right. And so you're actually hearing wet, dry, wet with a rig. How much is the Van Halen head? You know, less than $2,000. How much is this guitar? $700. Like this is the Mexican one, $600-700. So, you know, let's say you're $2,600 in, you get the Van Halen pedal. It's another $500 maybe, I guess. I haven't checked the street value. I haven't looked at the price, but let's say $500. You're $3,100. You know, and you got to have, you know, a MacBook or some studio monitors. Like, dude, for less than $5,000, you can do wet, dry, wet. That sounds like a lot of money to people. I know $5,000 is a lot of money, but like, dude, for what you're able to do in today's world, it's unbelievable. I'm freaking out that I can just hit a button and go to the Van Halen short delay setting. And that's it. I mean, that's the sound. There's the short one. That's it, right? This would be more of the sound for the solo. Or like, let's see here. I think it was like this like weird effect that he used in that same area. It's like something like totally that thing right there. It sounds really awesome. That's the short delay. No, it's not that. It's not the old school tone. It's not the, the brown sound or whatever. But it's totally an era. And there's a really cool project that we have coming that's going to be partnering with American Music Supply and the guys at XTS in Nashville, and we're going to do a full rig build and bring in an Eventide and make it a thing. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be really killer. And the guys, I don't want to give too much away. I'm not going to give too much away yet. Just know that we've got a project and a video coming that's going to be really awesome, partnered with some really cool, really, really nice companies, some really cool stuff. So with that said, I know it's probably blasphemous. So many people grew up with Van Halen, with the Roth era. That was the first stuff they ever heard. That was the first that existed, right? For me, it was just the Hagar era was the first thing that I heard. And I think for as much lust as there is over the vintage Van Halen tone, I've heard several amplifiers do it. I think you can get a really convincing vintage Van Halen tone out of the SL, what does John call it? Not the SL100, the SL60, 68, I think is what he calls it, SL68, something like that. It's John's 100-watt plexi. That with some reverb and delay on the left and the dry signal on the right. And you're Van Halen 1. I personally think this delay sound, this wet, dry, wet delay sound is harder to achieve than the original Van Halen Brown sound. I do. I think this is... It's never been available to the public. The general working man guitar player that wants to go out and play at clubs, or I think the average guitar player spends a few $1,000s a year on gear. I do. I think the average hobby level player will spend a $1,000 or $2,000 a year on gear. I think the middle of the road player spends $5,000 to $10,000 a year on gear. I know friends that have collections. They don't even leave their house. They just play, and they're just buddies. They're not professional players. I mean, obviously guys like me that are professional players will drop $5,000 on an instrument or $7,000 on an instrument. It's just the nature of that's how we pay our mortgages, right? Keep the lights on. But I think your hobby level players, are going to be flipping their daggum lids to be able to buy an amplifier. You don't even have to buy the 100-watt. You can get the little Icon amp for $700-800. And here's a really interesting thought. You can get 3 Icon combos for less than $3,000, probably less than $2,500. You can get 3 of those amplifiers, and you can get a $700 Wolfgang, which is what I'm playing, and the $500 delay pedal, and have a wet, dry, wet rig in your house or at your local bar. And it's all combos. You guys know the Icons. I played the Icons, and they're incredible. Joe Johnson's chiming in. The official number is $10,000 lifetime spent on guitar a year. In the US, it might be $1,000 a year. Yeah. So think about this: for $1,000 every couple of years. I mean, if you're a Van Halen nut and you're the guy that's like me, I've got a signed copy of 1984 on my wall upstairs. I'm a Van Halen nut. To think that I can copy the wet, dry, wet rig from the 80s that was 30 or 40 grand back then, and to think that I can copy that for less than $2,800, for less than $3,000, it's mind blowing. For less than 1/10 of the price, you can do the thing and have the drill. I mean, this is how much of a nut I am. I've got a drill at my table just so I can sit here and go. Even that sound right there sounds like pound cake. There's just something about the wet, dry, wet that sounds amazing. Michael's asking the inevitable question: is it Roth or Hagar? It's Roth and Hagar. The correct answer is and. I love Roth and Hagar. I mean, I can't imagine Van Halen without. I can't imagine it without that, you know? I mean, that's totally the Roth thing, right? Like but I also can't imagine Van Halen without, can't imagine it without that. You know what I mean? Like if somebody says, I can't, what the heck, he pulled out a drill. Dude, I've been sitting here with this Van Halen rig for a week. I've been playing every one of my favorite Hagar era songs. When I tell you guys, I sat as a kid and just was dumbfounded at why I could never get it to sound like Van Halen. Now, obviously, I don't sound like Van Halen. I'm not Eddie. I'll never be Eddie. Nobody will ever be Eddie. But I learned the songs, I learned the riffs and learned the licks and could play them as best I could, but I always knew there was an element missing. You can hear it. You're like, why does it sound like he's in IMAX and I sound like I'm standing in the middle of a field by myself? And I had a little PV Bandit that I upgraded one day to a Mesa Subway Rocket. I was broke. I had to, you know, have a job to buy my gear, but I was like, why is it not doing this? And one day, a guy that owned a music store here in town, Rick's Music, he's like, oh yeah, you like the Run Around and Man on a Mission and that era tone right now and Pound Cake and all that stuff. He's like, you got to have a wet, dry, wet rig. And I was like, what is that? He's like, oh, that means your effects are in 2 different amplifiers. You know, I was like, you have to have 3 amplifiers? And he just laughed. And he's like, yeah, it's just, you hadn't even done anything yet. You just got 3 amplifiers. And so for me, that was always this like milestone, man. You know, wow, I'd give anything to be able to just plug into one of those rigs one day and do it. And as my professional career grew, I shaped my own sound, right? Like you guys have got my records. You know what my sound is about. And it's not this, right? But I always wanted this. And to think that, man, your hobby level guy in his basement can afford this. Like John Cooper is my guitar tech. He has a job not in music. And he can have a wet, dry, wet rig. It's amazing. Like you do not have to be a professional musician to have a wet, dry, wet rig. That's astounding to me. And I know I keep rambling about it. I'm going to get into the chat here in a few minutes because I want to talk to you guys about whatever your favorite Van Halen, Van Hagar moments are. But yeah, it's just, I assimilated something similar in the Axe effects, and I got the effects to sound right, but there's something about a real tube amp. You know, everybody chimed in and was like, it doesn't sound like Van Halen. It's like, no crap. It's an Axe effects with a Suhr guitar, and it's, you know, trying to show you that you can do it with one piece of gear. This now is several pieces of gear, but it's like, you know, it's a $500 delay and an amp that, like, you can go into Guitar Center and buy every one of these pieces of gear right now, which is unbelievable. No pun intended with the right now reference. But yeah, it's really, really crazy. Pete Gryffindor is saying, how would you program a patch like that on the Axe Effects? Pete, just look up 90s EVH tone on my channel. I walk you through the whole setup. And it's exactly that thing. And I tell you how to do it. Joe Johnson saying the official number is $10,000 in a lifetime spent on guitar gear in the US. That's where I left off. Steve Newsom says, I would be surprised if you think that that's it, because there's too many guitar companies like PRS and Suhr and Anderson and Gibson and Fender. And these companies all stay in business somehow. And not only that, but they're all reporting profits. So even though we as a guitar community are really small, we spend a ton of money. We as the community, you guys spend a ton of money. I bet you all spend more money than you think you do on your hobby. Or better yet, I think you all spend more money than you want to tell your partner that you spend on your hobby. I definitely live in that world where it's like, where'd this guitar come from? I haven't seen it before. I'm just like, I don't know. It just showed up one day. You know, home for wayward stringed instruments. Hey, Mark, hope you're well. We got to get your lesson in. Feel free to, you know, hit me up. Maybe we could do it later on. Cheers to all my Patreon members that are in the house today. It's always good to see you guys. Jim Lewis and Randy and Mark and Jim Dover and all you cats that are in Troy, Randy Heston, man, it's good to see you guys always. Thanks for being here. Thanks for supporting the channel. As always, without you guys, I can't do this stuff. So if you want to be a part of the Patreon, go to patreon.com/AndyWoodMusic. That's where you can get signed up for master classes, weekly live master classes. Also, you can get signed up for, the one-on-ones at some of the higher tiers. So yeah, Sacred City NYC says Nuno talks about it, and even he couldn't reproduce it, right? It's a thing, right? It's totally a thing. So there's one element that's not in the tone right now, and the tone, and that element is the pitch shift. So not only did Ed have the wet delays on each side, there was a little bit of pitch shift, and I'm probably going to tell you the wrong number, but Dave Friedman's a friend of mine who makes great amps, and Dave knows the exact amount. I think it was like +8, -8, or maybe +9, -9 on the eventide on each side. So it was like not a chorus, it was a little bit of pitch shift. So we're bringing that into this rig build we're going to do for this video that you guys are going to flip out over. I'm excited about it. I'm super excited about it. Thanks to XTS and AMS for wanting to do something really, really fun, really like fan-based fun type of thing. I'm such a nerd. I'm such a nerd for Eddie and that thing, man. Kurt is even chiming it in. He's saying you just need the detune now. So yeah, and what's really cool is the EVH pedal, the delay pedal. I can't unplug it and show you, but for size reference, it's about the size of a Strymon. It's about that big, or small, however you want to look at that. Frank C says, I never knew that was the way to get the sound. Yeah, wet, dry, wet, and a lot of people surprising were chiming in on my my video on one of the Van Hagar tunes that I did recently, just some playthroughs. And they were like, what does WDW mean? And that's what that means. It's not Walt Disney World. That's not what it stands for, even though maybe it should. It stands for wet, dry, wet. Yeah, Joe is saying with the inflation in the 80s, it would have been $100,000 to sound like that. Yeah, no kidding, right? Yeah. So here's the guitar that I'm using. This is John Cooper's guitar, and I have put so many miles on this guitar in 1 week. You can tell there's like little fingerprints, and looks like somebody's been eating pancakes on it. John's gonna hate me for ruining his strings, but I think this is the Mexican one. Yeah, this is the Mexican. So $600-700 guitar, and John did some small mods. He put the detuner on there. He changed the to the Perloid, which is a little more of the nod to the PV era, the balance era. And then behind me, this one is tuned a half step down. This one's tuned a half step down. And this is a really pretty color silver. Silvers and grays are interesting because they tend to either have blue in them or brown or gold. And this one's got a really pretty blue to it. And I think this is another one that's a Mexican. Yeah, this is just a Mexican EVH, and they sound great. I think the EVH brand is really nailing it with the affordability. If I had a $700 budget, this is the guitar that I would get. I would get it over freaking anything else at $700. I think the only thing that you could toss in there would be a PRS SE, but some of those are north of $700, right? So this is the deal. I think this is a great value. It's just a great guitar. Ben was just over here. Ben Eller was just over here, and we were finishing up some thoughts on my record and things that we're going to do to it. We got keyboards in and getting strings in and obviously these kind of things. But Ben played this guitar and played it, and as soon as he hit the first chord, he's like, "You got to be kidding me!" I was like, "It's it, dude. It's the Van Hagar tone, Van Hagar tone." Let's hit some questions. I'd love to see what you guys think over here in the chat. We got almost 100 folks hanging out with us, which is really cool. Thanks for hanging. Love to see what you guys think in the chat. What's your favorite Van Hagar moment? Was Van Hagar something in your lifetime that was cheesy, or was it amazing? Like where did that sit? Luckily, I was able to see Van Hagar when they toured. And maybe it was about 2004 or 5. Maybe 05, they toured, and it was Van Hagar. It was awesome. And then I also got to see them several times with David Lee Roth on the back end when they were touring in like 2010, 12, 14, whatever, 15. Yeah. I'd love to know what you guys thought about the Van Hagar thing. Was it just so alien? Like when Unlawful Carnal came out and Pound Cake came out, was that something that you loved or that you hated? Again, my first Van Halen memory is right now. It's my first memory of ever hearing the band. Randy Heston says John Cooper's going to need to refret this guitar. Yeah, he really is. If he gets it back, I think I'm just going to hold it hostage forever. Rich is here. Love it. Great tone. Thanks, man. Speaking of the Iconic, Troy Bettis is in the house. Recently tried out the EVH Iconic. How does it differ from the 5153? I feel like the EVH Iconic has way more gain, and the gain structure is a little different. I feel like the 5153 is less compressed. And now I'm not speaking for the stealth models or any of these offshoots. I'm just talking about the one that I've got, the white vanilla. I also feel like the 50 watt makes the gain feel softer, where the 100 watts are hard feeling. And they provide like this like really unique like immediacy. Like I feel like the 100 watts are immediate. I feel like the Iconic amps are incredible. I love them. Like I might even just get the practice one just to have, just cause it's awesome. Like I think they're really, really great. Daryl says the tone will never be 100% right until you put the smoldering cigarette into the headstock. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Here we go. I'm sliding the chat down real quick. Steve says it's unbelievable what you can do with a Tonex. Now, I've not messed with Tonex, but if it's a load box, it should be able to do what the Sir thing is capable of doing. Akash, good to see you, my friend. Have you ever heard of Steel Panther? Yeah, not only have I heard of them, back in the day, we used to go see them when they were called Metal School. I think is what it was. And we would always go to NAMM and then they would be playing, you know. Highbox says the wet, dry, wet setup. Yep, absolutely, man. Steve Newsom says he spent $6,000 this year. Yeah. So think about this, Steve, for $6,000, you could have got, not that you aren't happy with your purchases, but for $6,000, you can do 3 50-watt Van Halen, Icon amplifiers, the Boss SDE unit and a Wolfgang, right? That's the rig. Like now it's the rig. It's not an assimilation. It's not sort of kinda. It's the sound, which is really killer. Spending most cash on travel and hotels. Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, yeah, that still counts as music though. I count my trips to concerts and stuff. That still counts as music for sure. Definitely though, Troy, when you're talking about the Icon amp, I think that's a no-brainer. I love it. Oh yeah, checking the weather in the room because it feels like a twister. Yeah, humans being, right? I never learned that one. I need to learn that one. So Mark says, late joining, but you had me at EVH. Reason I wanted to play guitar. Yeah, I mean, this is it, right? Like this is that's the sound to me of the... it's like really hard to play like myself with this tone because this is way more gain than I use and way more of everything than I use. It's way more of everything, just all over the place. Rocco's in the house. How do I get the EVH tone into the Kemper? Is it possible at all? That's HD Blues. HD Blues, at the risk of you hating me, I'm going to give you a really snarky answer. Sell the Kemper. I personally can't get along with them. They sound fine and they sound great when guys like Jimmy Olander use them, Michael Britt, and they load up these patches that they've made and they sound amazing. But for flexibility and editing, I can't control the things that I want to be able to control. So yeah, I can't get it to do any of the modern Van Halen stuff, unfortunately. So you could probably find plenty of Eddie Van Halen tones that are the Brown sound, old, like the tones from Fair Warning or the tones from Van Halen 2. You probably get those sounds on a Kemper, but you can't do the wet, dry, wet thing. Dustin Chang is in the house. Hey, Dustin, how are you? He says, is Eddie Van Halen's tone considered scooped? I'm always trying to find a balance because I'm told mids are necessary, but Mesa illustrated with Andy Timmons dumping mids made him play faster. I think Van Halen's modern tones, the Van Hagar tones, are pretty scooped. I would consider this a pretty scooped. Even though it's not, the interesting thing is with tone, things are the sum of the parts. So the amp right now is scooped. The IR I'm using has plenty of mids, and these pickups are Alnico 2 pickups, and they have plenty of mids. So pulling mids out of the amplifier, it still doesn't make it scooped, right? I've got other sources of mids. Did Ed use cleans, delays on clean tones? Yeah, he sure did. Things like Finish What You Started and 316 had plenty of cleans on them. Kurt is saying it's plus and negative 9. That sounds right. I remember Friedman saying it was 8 or 9, something like that. Michael is saying, once you get the rig, are you going to put together a Van Halen tribute gig? We actually have done a Van Halen tribute gig before, and we did it years ago, and we did 1984 front to back, and it was really fun. We dressed up in costumes and did the whole thing. As far as the tribute thing goes, that slides a little bit more into Skankbanger, which is me and Ben Eller and a couple of guys around the East Tennessee area. We do this 80s spoof kind of thing that's really fun. And I'll definitely be using this sound for that because it's perfect. I mean, it is just perfect. So yeah, that's definitely happening. Chris Lester says it looks like an FU tone upgrade on the detuner. I guess it's the red EVH detuner. I don't know what all John has tinkered with this on this guitar. Yeah. You got to get the EVH strap and the eye hooks. Yeah, the hooks for it, that's totally a thing, right? You got to get the hooks. Sacred City is in the house. He says Humans Being an Aftershock is one of his favorites. Yeah, please smash the like button. Please, guys, hit that like button. Hit the subscribe. Hit the bell. That way you can see when I go live and do these things. Mark Gamble says 5150 riffs blow me away. 5150 sounds like summer to me. It just sounds like summer. I'm going to learn some 5150 riffs, Mark, and teach you guys that on Patreon. Troy says 1984 was my first Van Halen record, and it was life-changing. Yeah, I'm sure. That is in my top 3 Van Halen records. My top 3 records are Van Halen 1, 84, and Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. And I'm unapologetic about it. Every guitar friend, every guitar player that I know is fair warning, fair warning, fair warning. It's awesome. It's heavy, but I got to have those anthems. I got to have Right Now. I got to have it. Like that is Right Now is as much Van Halen as Hot for Teacher is. And I think those two songs show the brilliance and the scope of Ed and Alex and their band. It just shows how wide that Michael, Ed, and Alex could go from one side of the spectrum to the other just based on who's singing. I think that's must have. Dwayne Harlick is saying Finish What You Started is a killer riff. I think it absolutely is. It's an amazing one. I'm rolling through the chat right now. Sammy does have a great voice. I love both is what Patriots is saying. And he says that Eddie Tone chased like nobody else. So happy he's lived in our time. Think of all the years that humanity has been on Earth. Think of all the years that Earth has existed. And we're all so blessed to have been alive when Eddie Van Halen is alive. Jason says, if that's the Wolfgang special, isn't it 1100? I don't think this is the special. This is John's Wolfgang that he swapped the bridge out to look to be chrome. This one is a Mexican that looks like the special. I think it's a $700 guitar, if I'm not mistaken. $600 or $700 guitar. I think the only difference is like that he swapped the bridge on this one. I think he bought two of them. He bought this blue one and this one. If John was in the house, he'd be able to tell you. I don't know if he's hanging out with us today, but I think John bought both of these guitars to swap them out. Like this one had the chrome on it, and this one had the black, and John wanted to make the balance guitar. So he got two Wolfgangs to do it. Because, you know, why not? Because two's better. Two's better than one. Jason, yeah, the standard is 700. This is the standard. I think it is. I think this is the standard. I love the Van Halen, Hagar era. Nothing hits like those synth ballads. I love the drums. The way the drums are mixed on the Van Halen, Van Hagar era is so good. I love the way they sound. Why Can't This Be Love blew me away. You know, another one that blew me away was that one was one of my favorites. Electrified Music Circus is in the house. 1978. I was blown away in 85, Sam and Ed. Dean's in the house. He said, I graduated high school in 1989, so that should tell you what influenced my musical world. Yeah, no kidding. What a time to be alive. What a time to be a teenager in the 80s. Wow. Wow. Frank C. says, I was a huge Van Halen and Montrose fan. I was very happy when Sammy and Ed joined forces. The band played the best when they hated each other. Roth knew that, figured it out pretty early. It's a dark take. Yuri's in the house. He says, Carnal Knowledge was my introduction to the band when I was in my teens, and it's still probably my favorite record of them. I was actually just watching the Right Now video today. Sammy was supposed to be the original singer. I didn't know that, and I didn't know anything. I thought they all formed the band when they were in high school or whatever. I wasn't aware of Van Halen. This is Peter Gryffindor. Great name, by the way. I wasn't aware of Van Halen during the heyday, but I love the Hagar era. First time I saw Van Halen was their video on New Haven. Sammy is amazing, and he did some very risky stuff. Yeah. Giorgio's in the house, and he says, always great songwriting in the Roth and Hagar eras. Roth era had more balls to it. Sure. Okay, here's Richard. I'm hoping to recreate the wet, dry, wet with the SDE 3000 and the Helix into 3 channels of a mixer. Richard, you will 100% be able to do that. 100%. I would go from the Helix into the SDE 3000, from that into your mixer. That's how you'll be able to do it. But you put this out too late. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. Sammy and DLR eras are equally valid, but they are just different things. I think both were right for their perspective eras. Yeah, I mean, you gotta imagine, like, Sammy was able to be the singer for the band and survive grunge when most bands that were in the late 70s, early 80s got ostracized for being a guitar band and lots of solos and lots of hairspray and lots of those things and antics. Grunge came along and stomped it all out. But for an amazing miracle and an amazing take on their musicality, Van Halen was able to navigate those waters, and they always played arenas. They were always Van Halen. They were immune to the being ostracized. You know. Albin is in the house. Great to see you as always. Great to see you. He says he discovered AC/DC Let There Be Rock and Van Halen 1 on the same day. And Needless to say, my life changed. Yeah, and who's to say that that's not the exact butterfly effect moment that brought you here and we're hanging out and talking today, right? Is because what that did for you for guitar. Someone needs to build a 5150 wet, dry, wet 3-channel head. Golly dang, that would be so expensive and so heavy. Oh, it would be the heaviest amplifier ever. Oh my gosh. Pete's in the house. He's saying I kind of jumped ship when it was Van Hagar and went to the DLR Vi Sheehan camp, as that was the closest to classic Van Halen. Though commercially, they put the band through the roof for sure. Sammy and DLR eras are equally valid. They're just different things. I think both were right. Yeah, for sure. This is something that I want to add to the conversation here today that we're having, is I loved how you can tell that Ed was hanging out with guys like Steve Lukather through the later years. You could tell that there was a hang there because Ed's soloing and his approach to being melodic really matured. And some of those later solos and stuff, they sound like a session player kind of. And it's got a slickness that a session player has. And I like that a lot. I really, really like that. And I think a lot of that was from hanging out with guys like Luke. The almighty Steve Lukather, one of the greatest to ever do it in the history of rock guitar. Rocco says, I just want to say this to everyone here real quick. I've learned so much from the Patreon and the Discord. I changed my setup with Jay. I would never have figured it out. There you go. If there is ever a testament to what we do over in the actual Woodshed, we run that over on Patreon. Rocco just gave it a glowing review. We've got so many great guys over there and so many knowledgeable guys that are willing to help each other and help each other grow. It's a really, really killer hang. So jump over there and join us. You can join in for just $5 a month. That's the subscription fee for the most basic tier. If you want to join the master classes that I do live every week, those are $25 a month. So it's like you get 4 of those for $25, which is a really good deal. I don't know if you hate me, it's a bad deal. But if you like me and you like what I do, it's a good deal because it's well below my normal rate. Richard is 97 and watching. Get those thumbs up. Yeah. I was brought back a little bit. This is Tom saying I was brought back a little bit when Sammy joined the band, but it's also really cool that the other guitar was added. I kind of got used to it. Yeah, I mean, I don't ever really think about Sammy being this other guitar player. I think of Sammy being a guy, not that he can't play guitar, but I always thought of it like that Sammy wanted to have a guitar to hold. I know I've got friends like Dave Kennedy, who I work with, who's a great singer, and he likes to have a guitar even though he's playing, he's not really, being a guitar player. He's playing some rhythm, but it's more about like it's a comfort level. There's a safety behind holding a guitar when you're on stage, and maybe helps you channel some artistic internalization that allows you to be a better singer. I totally buy that. The mindset of an artist is very, very powerful, and I always thought of that being the part of it. I could be totally full of crap, but that's something that I think. Did you ever hear, this is Sacred City saying, did you ever hear the director of Twister said it was like what it was like working with Sammy? He said it was a nightmare. He said Sammy, no lyrics about tornadoes. Sammy was like, okay, and then wrote a whole bunch about F1 wins. I didn't know anything about this. This is news to me. Pete is saying, with the Aspects 3, can you do the Echoplex before the gain type of stuff that Pete Thorne describes in one of his vids for that ain't talking about love kind of thing? Yeah, you can definitely place the signal chain in the Axe 3, and I think the Axe 3 is really, really powerful and a way to assimilate a lot of different versions. If you can only buy one piece of gear, I think the Fractal is the piece of gear that you buy, for sure, if you're wanting to play guitar at home and record and have that kind of thing. How did you come up with the band name Skank Banger? It's really funny. We're all video game guys, and the lead singer and I would, before we would go out on the weekends, to just, go out on the town, and hit the bars or whatever, we would always kind of pregame over at his house, right? Like, we didn't want to go out and spend a bunch of money being out and about, spending money at drinks at bars. So we would just kind of pregame at his house a little bit and before football games and things like this. And we played Guitar Hero, and which is funny because I play guitar, but we played Guitar Hero and Rock Band. And in Rock Band, one of the things that you did is when you unlocked and you played more gigs, you got more money, and you could buy your character clothes and hairstyles and tattoos and guitars and stuff. And our fake band on Rock Band was Skank Banger. Well, then I got approached by a company called the Tin Roof Corporation. Tin Roof they've got these bars all over the United States, and they wanted me to do a gimmick band, kind of like Steel Panther, but it'd be really slick, production, lighting, all the things. And so we did a contract with them, and we needed a band name, and we said, well, we're obviously Skank Banger. Like that's the band name, right? That's the name of the band on the video game, and that was us. So it's like that's it. Yeah, that's how it came about. Pedro says, what about getting those tones with the FM9? Yeah, you can totally get them on FM9. Also, you guys that are asking about this kind of stuff, all of it's available on Patreon. So if you want the Van Halen FM9 tones, you can go over there, $5, and join up for a month and download all of them. It's like, I don't care. I don't time gate it. You can go over there and download everything and then leave. That would be awful for me, but good for you. So yeah. Electrified Music is saying, my neighbors love Van Halen. They never complain about the volume, right? Patrick says, I've been running wet, dry, wet using an FX8, and it seems to go 100% wet on the left and right. It sounds weird, but 50% mix sounds right. It's like the delays and verbs happen after I play 100% wet. Thoughts? Yes, Patrick. There's a whole video I did on this very exact problem with the fractal, and the workaround is something you would not expect. It's like 2 single delays in line with a certain way that I've got it panned, and it actually makes it work. So watch my video on the Van Halen tone. It's like 90s EVH tone in the fractal or something like that, or 90s EVH tone made easy. It's on my channel. You can't miss it. Thanks for the love. Is this black guitar the new Andy Wood signature model? No, sir. This is a signature model belonging to one and only Ed Van Halen. So I'm just Van Halening right now, you know. And it sounds glorious. Sounds just like sounds like totally all those, you know. Totally sounds like that era, right? It's totally that. Chuck Keller says, check out Tone Junkie on here for Kemper wet, dry, wet setup. Chuck is a Kemper man. He can help you. I can't ever get it to work. Highbox says, now I have to decide between the SDE 3000 and the Halo. Let me help you with that decision. Highbox, if you are looking for a recreation and you want to do the wet, dry, wet thing, you absolutely 1000% need to get the SDE 3000. Now, if you're not looking for wet, dry, wet, and you're looking for a really simple to use, fantastic sounding delay, get the Halo. I personally use the Halo when I'm playing my music. When I'm playing gigs as a session player or a sideman with the Rascal Flatts guys, or if I'm doing my own stuff, like Junktown and Forgotten Secrets and all this, I would definitely get the Halo. They both have a spot, but they do different things. That's like choosing a Les Paul or a Strat. You gotta get the one that's suiting what your goals are. Pete's saying he saw him at the Monsters of Rock in 1988 at the Orange Bowl. I bet that was slamming. Benjamin's saying I got to see Van Halen when they played the West Coast in Dallas for the live free concert they had on top, and having to cancel the stop on the Carnal tour. Eddie Salazar is asking, hey, Eddie, how are you? Hope you're doing great, my friend. He's saying, were you ever a Randy Rhoads fan? Yeah, I mean, what Randy wrote and did, and I mean, amazing. I just personally, Randy's tone wasn't really for me, and I'm a big tone sound kind of guy. But boy, his playing was really exceptional, and his writing was incredible. Carson says the specials are on sale right now for $7.99. So for $799, you could get the Van Halen guitar. That's incredible. Yeah, if they're upgrades, they're $1,000. See, John didn't really upgrade. He just bought two $799 guitars and swapped the parts. So it's not really like you're upgrading. He's just like changing the parts out. I unfortunately cannot sell the Kemper because if I play a real amp, my neighbors would hate me. Here's the thing you can do, HD Blues. I'm using the Van Halen head, which is a 100-watt head, and it would blow me through this wall if I had it on a cabinet. But I'm using a Sur reactive load, and that's a $400 unit, and you can load the amp down, and use it into your monitor. So if there's a favorite amp that you love, let's say you're one of those blessed peoples that have a vintage amplifier or a Dumble or a Saltano or a Diesel or a Sur amp or something like that, then you can get a $400 load box and load it down and use it, and that can control all the volume in the world. So like right now I'm getting the Van Halen volume barely above, or the Van Halen tone with my volume barely above speaking, which is really great. Fender 1960 CS, both of those guitars are specials. You can tell because the specials have arch top bodies. Standards have flat bodies, and they are marked on the front of the headstock as well. Yeah, I guess it is. This is a special. This is the Van Halen special. So how much is this guitar? The specials are on sale. Carson is saying this guitar is on sale for $799. Amazing, right? So $799, $500 for the delay, I'm guessing. $1,800 for the amp, $1,900 for the amp. Load box is $400. Dude, like I think you're under $5,000 for the whole thing, for the whole wet, dry, wet rig. Amazing. Thank you for the info, Fender. I don't ever pay attention to, I just drive. I just drive too fast. Chris Lester is saying, oh, sorry. I missed it. Chris is saying, I was kind of ruined by seeing Van Halen in 78 as my first concert. Sammy was such a departure from that style. Finish what you started was cool. Yeah, I think the departure is what made it work. I would not have wanted a guy to come out there and try to act like they're David Lee Roth, but not. I think that was the problem with a lot of wannabe bands. The wannabe guys wanted to act and wanted to be David Lee Roth, but they couldn't. And the bands that really shot up outside of that were your Guns N' Roses and Motley Crue, where like Guns wasn't trying to be Van Halen. They were a totally different animal, right? Totally different animal. And really, really good. Axl's so far away from David Lee Roth, Rocco's saying, I love your pedal, Andy. Thank you, man. The gearbox is amazing. We're really, really proud of it. Thank you for that, dude. Yeah. Patriots is saying, gotta go. Cheers. Cheers, man. Good to see you. Steve says, it was referring to me spending $6,000 on Quinn. Now, I know what I could have done with that money, but day late, dollar short. There's more, right? There's more. Always more. Oh, yeah. Patrick's talking about the going back and forth when Sammy would sing the high notes that Eddie would play. That's crazy. Yeah. Daryl Queen, it says later work had the Holdsworth influence too. Yeah, a little bit of that for sure. In the 80s, it was this $5,000 gear, 5,000 in gear shoved in a $50 car with a $5 to 100 miles. Yeah, right. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. So many great comments over here, guys. I love it. I love to see it. Don't sleep on a different kind of truth with David Lee Ralph. It was their last album together. David Roth. Last time we had the guitar is amazing. Yeah. When I first started playing guitar after 20-year lapse and have nothing, my first purchase was a 2010 EVH. Since then, I haven't stopped playing. Amazing. Yes. Amazing. Yeah. Dwayne is saying I totally sucked at Rock Band. I couldn't play it in front of the. I couldn't play in front of the beat. I'm too laid back in the pocket. Got killed every time. Right. Jeremy says if I could only go to one of your shows in Knoxville, which one would you recommend? What do you mean by that? Like a you want to see like Skank Banger? Because you should come to the July 4th show at the Shed or any of the Scruffy shows. Those are all really great if you want to see Skank Banger. If you want to see me out with Gary or any of my stuff, you'll have to go to andywoodmusic.com. Right now, I don't have any of my solo shows planned because I'm making a record. We're trying to finish everything up on that. Yep. I need to get out the red and white one is with the Skank Banger gear, so it's actually up in storage upstairs in the house. I need to go get it out and try it. But with the Van Halen, Van Hagar era, it's not about the Frankenstein, right? Like that's the thing. That's why I asked John. I was like, hey man, can I borrow your Wolfgangs? Dustin saying, unfortunately, picking up the guitar in the mid 2000s, the very first exposure to Van Halen was seeing Converses with the Stripes, musician's friend. I also developed palpable fear of Floyd Roses. That's really great. That's really great. Mark Kirby says, I got to brag. I saw the Van Halen secret show at the Whiskey with Sammy. Amazing. Amazing. Harlan, welcome. Yeah, man. Troy Bettis is saying $10.99 at Sweetwater. So that must be the one that's up from this, right? This one's the $7.99, I think is what Carson was saying. Fender is saying I have a Frankie and the special, and they're both great. Yeah, I think so. Gary Sharon got a terrible album to sing on. I need to go back and listen to it. I haven't heard that record in years, so I think it'd be like out of service to like say what I think of it without listening to it in a long time. Balance is one of the most underrated rock albums in history. Every song is fantastic. Keep up the great work. Cheers, man. Yeah, Balance is outstanding. This is not a Japanese special. This is the Mexico one. Yeah, made in Mexico. Mexico. There she is. Yeah, this is not a Japanese one. Yep. Fender's saying I wasn't being snarky or short. No. I didn't take it as that. Yeah, it didn't come across snarky or snooty at all. I would love to see you at the Bijou if you tour with the new album. I absolutely will be at the Bijou. We're going to be trying to put together some shows to do with the new album. It's going to be really fun. Hey, Andy, I was wondering if you ever played Shindig on the Green and Asheville. I sure did, Jeremy. I sure did. A lot with my granddad. Boyan, welcome to the hang today. Greetings from Bulgaria. One of your huge fans. Cheers, man. Thank you so much for joining us from Bulgaria. I hope you get to hang out, watch some of this in retrospective when I post it online. But thanks for being here. Kind of talking about the wet, dry, wet thing and the Van Hagar thing, and just kind of talking about all of that side of Ed's playing that a lot of people don't like to talk about. It seems like most everybody wants to talk about the early years, Van Halen 2 and Fair Warning and stuff like that. Pete says, I still remember being 8 years old and seeing Gene Simmons as a producer on the first album, not knowing what it was, thinking that was a Gene on the I love them, I need them, can't live without them line. Andre says, Humans Being is top 10 Van Halen songs of all time. Ooh, man. Yeah, I need to learn Humans Being. Maybe that's one that I do in the next day or two for Instagram. That would be really cool. Really, really cool. By the way, Destiny 2 servers are back up. Awesome. I don't have any time to play till late tonight. I cannot play till later. Side note, is any of you guys playing Diablo 4? Anybody playing Diablo 4? I just saw the thing for Starfield, and it looks really awesome. Did you guys watch the Bethesda trailer for Starfield? We're not talking about music, we're talking about games. And if anybody's playing Diablo, I was wondering if you liked it. When's the next time you're going to be in the Chicago area? Tom, I was just up in Chicago with Gary, and I didn't get a chance to sniff around. It was just a busy day. We were up there playing. Jeremy says, that's amazing. I remember seeing a picture of you in a shop in Marion. Had no idea you grew up there. Sure did. Sure did. Grew up in Marion, North Carolina until I was 14, 15, and then moved to Tennessee. Modern Warfare 2. Yeah, for sure. Not yet want to bad. Yeah. It seems like Diablo would be a fun one to play with buddies. You know, it's kind of got that gauntlet kind of feel to it. Yeah, one more time, just so for people chiming in late, let me give you what the Van Halen wet, dry, wet thing is all about. There's basically two settings I'm using here in the SDE 3000. That first one right there. And go back down to drop D. Yeah. And the other one I'm using is this short one that I like. EVH short. So it's like this. This guy's telling me, this AJ Fiddle is telling me that it's a Japanese one. It's not. I mean, I can see on the back of the headstock it says made in Mexico. Like I can promise you that this thing says, let's see, focus in on that. Get out of my face right there. Made in Mexico. This is not a Japanese one. Right there. This is for sure a Mexican guitar. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So this is like the short sound, right? And then the long one, or medium, what's called medium. That's kind of like the pound cake one. I would say, Dustin Chang is saying, what are some intro doable EVH songs to start learning? I think Pound Cake's pretty achievable for any skill level. Teaches you good rhythm if you're into the Van Hagar era. The Van Hagar era has got some pretty complicated rhythms in it, in the riffs. I think what's a good one to learn? I mean, I think you got to learn Panama, right? And it comes in on the and, right? That's another thing. It doesn't come in on the down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That's a really important part of Panama. A lot of people get wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. All right. I think Unchained. So the stuff like that, Dustin, I think those are some good ones. Mark Gamble says, "Can you play some 5150?" I'm gonna have 5150 for you. I don't know. I'm gonna learn some 5150 songs. AJ is chiming in and said, "Wow, must have changed the bridge. The black one with the maple board usually comes with blacked out hardware." It does, actually. This is the John, my guitar tech, bought both of these guitars at the same time. 2 Mexican guitars, and he bought this one had these pickups and this hardware in this guitar. So he swapped them out. So this would have this kind of vibe, and this one would be the balance guitar, like the look of the balance guitar, which is awesome. Freaking awesome. I have a Japanese made. Is there a big difference in quality from the Japanese one to the Mexican ones? This thing feels and plays outstanding. Like I wouldn't guess this to be a Mexican guitar. The frets feel great. I can't do the intro really good to Main Streets. I think it's something. Okay, what was it? Was that the right order? I can't do it. I don't know the right order. I don't know. I think the other part was. Something like that. That's not right. Something like that, right? Yeah, I need to figure out the tapping. I never really had. I need to learn the right order for the tapping. Jonathan Booth says, Wolfgang special for $79.9 where? You spoke about it 20 minutes ago. Carson in the chat, if you slide up the chat, you can see that. You can see that somewhere. That's probably, if I had to guess, probably it's a Sweetwater deal or an AMS kind of thing. Just Google it real quick. Probably get you the answer you need. I'm not online. I'm streaming this, so I don't have like the internet tabs open or anything like that. Not to say that couldn't, we're just not. Steve is saying Mexico's building some great guitars. This is killer. Like this guitar is killer. I can walk on stage with it tomorrow, play any gig. It's really great. Dustin's saying, sorry if this is a digression, but I was surprised by your comment saying you're playing with more gain than usual. Could you possibly demo what your normal lead amount of gain would be? Yeah, it wouldn't be this. It makes all the tapping stuff really easy. I mean, it just sounds like I get a little bit washed out versus like, you know, with less delay. Let me just center that out. Right, it's like it's so much effect and it's so much gain. It's just I use a little bit less of all of that stuff. I can't really compare it without running through a different rig because this is a full rig built for this sound. But you know, I use overdrive pedals on a clean amp most of the time is what I'm doing. Steve is saying my Nick Johnson Telecaster just showed up. Amazing, yeah. What tunings are EVH mostly used? This will be the last question we get to today. This is be the last question we get to. The tunings that Van Halen mostly used somewhere on the first few albums, it's close to a half step down. It's not exactly a half step down. It's close to it. For the later era, he was in standard. So he's in standard for a lot of the balance and carnal knowledge stuff. There are some that are half step down, like run around, round and round, run around. No, round and round is rap. Run around, yeah, that's the. I think that's tuned to half step down. Yeah. So basically, it's either standard or half step down. Michael Rizzo is in the house, and he says, I bought the special with black hardware, and I love it. Yeah, it's this guitar. AR Morano says, are you using the noise gate? If yes, where at? There's a noise gate in the SDE 3000. I think it's off right now. Here's my idle hum. Pretty daggum quiet, really. Best of Both Worlds is a very cool tune. Try to play the rhythm part with country sound and feel. It's a lot of fun. Many Japanese made have American parts. They send them over there when the factory gets up and running. Oh, cool to know. Yeah. So maybe that Japanese one, if I wanted the black with the binding, that's the one I need to get, right, with the chrome. Andre says, I have a Frankie relic, and even though the EVH Wolfgang pickup that came with it was great, it died on me. But I swapped it for the EVH Frankenstein pickup, and it was amazing. Highly recommend. Cool. I love the pickup that's in the Wolfgang, the Fender, they call it the Frankenstein, the Frankie. Yeah. I love that pickup. It's amazing. It rips. It's got that clankiness and that mid that I like. The mid-range is really, really killer. Thanks for hanging out with me today. All things Van Hagar. Boy, it is a delight. I'm telling you guys, I've had so much fun ripping on this thing. And it's really challenging because this is not my kind of sound. It's really, really not my thing that I played through most of the time. I go for, less of everything, right? Less gain and less delay and stuff, and a very dark sound. But yeah, thanks for hanging out with us. It's been really fun. A little bit of housekeeping. We are doing the Woodshed guitar event this year, and that's got Eric Johnson, Andy Timmons, Mark Lettieri, Greg Koch, Brent Mason, Seth Rosenblum, and myself on the Woodshed guitar event. That's woodshedguitarexperience.com. It's 4 days right outside of Nashville, about an hour or so outside of Nashville. 4 days, limited to 100 people, of learning from Eric and Brent and everybody and myself. And it's beautiful. Everything is all included in your costs. Go to woodshedguitarexperience.com. We're offering right now a contest through Paul Reed Smith Guitars that will give you a free pass to Woodshed. So that's a $3,000 value. Free pass to Woodshed if you submit your video through all the channels. The details will be on the website on woodshedguitarexperience.com. But basically, you make a video saying what music means to you and what it would mean to you to get to come to Woodshed. And you just hashtag it and tag us and all that type of stuff. All the details, Chuck has just put the link over here in the chat. So the Woodshed Guitar Experience, man, get in there and sign up for that thing. Tag us. Come to Woodshed for free. Are you kidding me? Yeah. Come hang. It'll be awesome. The contest ends on the 30th. So we're at the 13th. You got half a month to get it in. The contest ends on the 30th. I'm going to make a little video for my socials reminding people that it's ending on the 30th. Get your entries in. It's a way to get a trip to Woodshed Guitar Experience. Eric Johnson, Andy Timmons, Brent Mason, Greg Koch, Mark Lettieri, Seth Rosenblum, myself, all-star band, house band. Man, it's going to be amazing. Great food, great hangs, great fellowship, lots of learning, lots of jamming. Great companies are going to be involved with various gear and all that kind of stuff. It's going to be really awesome. So get everything turned in. With that said, I'm glad to see everybody as always. Thanks for hanging out today with the Van Halen, Van Hagar type of stuff. Really appreciate you guys, and I will see you all very, very soon.